All right, welcome back to another episode of Bo Rants About Stuff. So, we all know what happened this past Saturday, and scary. We almost witnessed the literal murder of a man before our eyes, and before the eyes of millions of people. And it's sad to me. It's sad to me because I just can't understand how, I don't understand that thought process. But one deranged individual, once again, it wasn't the gun's fault. It was the individual that was deranged. Why he was deranged, I don't know. Was it political rhetoric? Maybe. Was it his parents? Maybe. I'm going to talk later about the failures of the Secret Service, but I can tell you the one thing that may be controversial, may not. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that here's how I feel. That was a deranged individual that was led by political rhetoric, and you can only call somebody Hitler so many times before somebody sick is going to believe something you're saying. You can tell the lie over and over and over again, and eventually people will believe it. And some of you guys did. But forget that deranged individual. For all of you people out there who continued after a man was almost dead in front of us, the hatred that you spewed, and actually being upset with the fact that he missed and saying it, you are some deranged, sick individuals. You are absent. Do you know what would have happened had he actually succeeded in putting Mr. Trump's brains out the back of his head while we were all watching? If you think today there wouldn't be more violence in the streets if it had actually happened. By the way, I want to remind you, it was an assassination attempt. No doubt about it. Did you see any rioting in the streets from the people on the conservative side? Did you see any of that going on? None of it. Didn't happen. Even though I can tell you there were a bunch of people out there that are pissed. That are pissed that he even took the shot, that he got that far. But it is absolutely beyond the pale to me to understand how anybody can wish the death of a man who is just doing what he thinks is right for our country. I've said this before, I'm going to continue to say it until I'm blue in the face. For all of you people out there, they're saying, Trump's just in it for himself, Trump's just in it for himself, he's just in it for himself. Let me remind you, the man was already rich, the man was already famous, the man already had a great cushy life. He didn't need any of this. He has gone through pure hell since 2015 by being absolutely run through the ringer by everybody. If you think it hasn't cost him millions and hundreds of millions of dollars by the time we add in all of the economic costs for his loss of revenue for people that won't stay in a Trump hotel anymore because it says Trump on it, or won't do business, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but whatever. So how is it this man's in it for himself when everything that has happened has been bad for him and his family, other than the things he's been able to do good for the country? Amber Rose gave a speech at the Republican National Convention the other day. Some of you have heard it, some of you haven't. Some of you have referenced it, some of you haven't. The reality is, it's the one thing that made me go, oh my God, please do that. When she said her father challenged her. She'd been a staunch Democrat her entire life. Her father challenged her to at least go do the research on her own. Go read the speeches that Trump gave. Go read the things he said. Go watch the speeches. We have this thing called YouTube. We have this thing called the internet where you can actually go look for it and see it yourself instead of listening to Joe Biden say it. He has said, and I quote, he said there were fine people on both sides. These are the lies that Joe Biden tells every day. He tells you that Donald Trump said there were fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. What he doesn't tell you is the context in which he said it. So prior to that, he had also absolutely condemned anybody that was a white nationalist. He condemned racism in all forms and fashions. He condemned anti-Semitism. His daughter is a Jew. She converted to Judaism to be married to Jared Kushner. He has done he said, He called both people, find people on both sides of the issue. What he said was, there was an issue going on about pulling statues down. There were some people who believed that the statues that were up were statues that reminded us of our history, good or bad, reminded us of our history. And there were nice people on both sides. Some people wanted to tear the statues down, some people wanted to leave the statues up. But prior to that, he had absolutely condemned white supremacy to its strongest level. He never once said to inject bleach into your veins when COVID was happening. That never happened. Go watch the speech. It didn't happen. And yet Joe Biden continues to tell you that it did. He also said that Joe Biden continues to tell you that Donald Trump called all of the servicemen when he was over in France and getting ready to go visit a cemetery that had some of our service people who had, God bless them, that had served and lost their lives over in France during World War II. And the Atlantic published a report. Nobody ever verified it. Nobody that was actually in the room said it ever happened. Matter of fact, everybody that was in the room said it didn't happen. But Joe Biden continues to tell you, even though it's been debunked, that Donald Trump said that he didn't want to go visit the cemetery because the people that were in that cemetery were suckers and losers. That is an absolute bald-faced lie. He never said it. Go read about it. Don't just listen to Joe Biden repeat the lie. Go see for yourself. The things they have said about this man, the constant lies they have told. The Lincoln Project, to this day, we are 5 days removed from the man being shot in the head. And for everybody that thinks it didn't happen, I can't help you. You're just nuts. There's just no other way around it. You're beyond repair. We were 5 days out, and the Lincoln Project, everybody's like, we got to tone down the rhetoric. We got to tone down the rhetoric. At no point has anybody that I know of on the right ever said anything other than Joe Biden is incompetent. That is just a fact that the people on the right believe in. But they've never called him Hitler, even though he is a threat to democracy. Let me remind you, I talked about this last time, I'll tell you one more time. Everybody keeps saying Trump's a threat to democracy. Oh, that was the other lie. Let me back up. The other lie that they keep repeating is Trump said he wants to be a dictator from day one. Not what he said. Go read the actual transcript of what he said. What he said is, when somebody said, do you want to be a dictator? He said, I'd like to be a dictator for one day and take care of all those problems. But he never said, I want to be a dictator on day one. That's not what happened. It's a lie. But you can't continue to say those things about people over and over and over again. Here's one more. Donald Trump did not say there would be a bloodbath in the streets if he wasn't elected. What he said in the speech was, when it came to the automobile industry and China trying to build automobile factories in Mexico so that they could, for all of the EVs that they thought they were going to import here, I'm going to tariff them 100%. You're not going to be able to sell them in the United States market, and you're not going to steal our market. He said, but if Joe Biden gets elected, there will be a bloodbath in the automobile industry. Not a bloodbath if he didn't get elected. He was not fomenting violence. None of that ever happened. So now we've got this place where people are trying to say we've got to tone down the rhetoric. And I agree. Start. Let's go. Let's start today. But when you have the Lincoln Project, who are never Trumpers, coming out 5 days after the man had his ear shot off and was within an inch of having his brains blown out, the Lincoln Project comes out with another commercial calling him Hitler again. When did we tone down anything? It's 5 days. You guys got to do your own work. You got to do your own homework. You can't believing what they say on MSNBC, believing what they say on CNN. If you haven't learned yet that they lie to you over and over and over again, these are the same people that told you masks would work for COVID. These are the same people that would put on literally face diapers, like cloth masks, like that was going to stop anything. These are the same people that told you masks would work after they told you masks wouldn't work. Then they told you got a double mask. Then they told you you got to get a vaccine. Then they told you if you got the vaccine, it was going to stop the spread of COVID. Then they said, well, it won't really stop the spread. It'll just kind of ease the symptoms a little bit. Then they told you you can't use ivermectin. Then it comes out that ivermectin actually was a good use for it. Then they told you you can't use hydroxychloroquine. Then it turns out hydroxychloroquine was good for it. And you believe them all the time. You just live in a vacuum and act like these people are lying to you. Go do the research. Go figure it out for yourself. It's so frustrating to me when people say stuff and I go, he never said it. Go watch it. Go watch it with your own two eyes. Don't listen to me. Unedited, go see it. No, I know, because that's what they said on CNN. That's what they said on MSNBC. Get out of here with that noise. None of that's true. Speaking of which, I don't know whether it was an inside job or not, but I can tell you that the more that they absolutely do not answer questions, legitimate, good questions. But how many of you guys have faith in the DOJ actually giving us the right answer, the FBI giving us the right answer? Here's what I can tell you. It's 2024, and I'm pretty sure none of us know the real reason things happened with JFK 61 years ago. Anybody ever heard about what actually happened? That was an inside job too. Guaranteed the CIA was in on that. And I think that this may have the same characteristics, just my own thought process. So you got a kid that's on your radar for 90 minutes that you see walk through with a rangefinder, that goes back and gets his backpack, then walks back, then scales a building, and you're going to tell us, by the way, that you didn't have a sniper on that building because it was sloped, although the other two snipers were on a slope roof already. So that one doesn't make any sense. Somehow you left the only building that had a clear shot at the president open. And a 20-year-old kid was able to outsmart the entire Secret Service. They pulled people off of Trump's detail that morning to go handle Joe Biden's event that she just coincidentally decided to have in the exact same area as Donald Trump the same day. So he's got an event scheduled. All of a sudden, she has an event scheduled. All of a sudden, they need to pull security detail off of his security detail to go help her in the same area so the same people have time to get over to her, which leaves this one building open that's got a clear and direct shot, but somehow this kid was able to stash a weapon. I asked somebody this the other day. So let's go with the theory that it's just gross incompetence, because at the very least, it's absolutely gross incompetence. And the fact that that lady, Kimberly Cheadle, was not fired the next day, and still hasn't been fired, is absolutely proof that they will lie to you and absolutely hold no one accountable for anything. No one is ever held accountable for anything. There were so many colossal failures in there that what you're telling me is they were so inept that they left the roof open, but some kid from an hour away went, hey, let me just take my chances, go take my gun to a Trump rally, because I think I'm going to be able to scale a roof of a building and get a clear shot on him. Who would have thought you could ever possibly get a clear shot on a man? Nobody would think that's possible unless they had a little bit of help thinking maybe that roof's going to be uncovered, maybe there'll be a time frame with which you can get up there, maybe nobody's going to do anything, even though 35 people are pointing at you and going, he's got a gun, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. They're not going to do anything about it until you get off 3 or 4 or 5 shots. It's just absolute gross incompetence. By the way, while I'm talking about incompetence and accountability, how come nobody in this administration ever gets held accountable for anything? They told you, they gaslit you and told you that the Afghanistan pullout was the greatest thing that ever happened, that we did it just perfect. Even though we all, with our own eyes, could witness people falling off of the wheels of a cargo plane trying to fly out of there. People were falling to their death from 200 and 300 feet high. Even though 13 service members who Joe Biden has still never said their name, still never said their names out loud. 13 service members died because of the incompetence of this administration. I'm not blaming that directly on Joe Biden. I'm blaming it on his people that were in charge, and then they came out and never once said, hey, we screwed this up. This went bad, and we're really sorry to everybody that went. No, this was great. We did exactly what it was supposed to happen. Look how many people we evacuated. But never saying anything about all of the people they left behind, never saying anything about all of the people that died while they were trying to evacuate it because it was such a colossal failure. But whoever got fired for that? Whoever got held accountable for it? They keep trying to tell you every day that the economy is great. Look at how great everything is. I don't know what you're seeing, but we're seeing the greatest economy we've ever had. And I'm going, hey, I'm pretty sure eggs are $4.39 a dozen now. And that's way higher than they were about 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure he says I'm going to put homeownership in reach. Homeownership is 50% more expensive now than it was 4 years ago. How's that getting into reach? And yet nobody ever gets fired for all of the incompetence that continues to happen. And in this particular case, you have the former president of the United States, who is also the leading candidate of one of the two major political parties, almost get his head blown off, and nobody is held accountable? You're just going to blame the local police for that? It's absolutely astounding to me how this continues to happen day after day after day in everything in this administration. They continue to tell you all of their failures were successes. They continue to tell you that everything they're doing is the greatest that's ever been done, and yet we can all see for our own eyes that it's not really true. I don't know how they couldn't. Joe Biden said the other day it was an open question as to whether they had done everything they could to protect President Trump. How is that an open question? Here's my answer. You didn't. If you had done everything you could do, he wouldn't have been shot at in the first place. That's simple. You didn't do your job. And because you're incompetent at your job, you should be fired. That's simple. Wouldn't matter whether you're black, white, male, female, green, blue, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. You didn't do your job, and the President of the United States and future, at least candidate right now, was almost taken out. You didn't do your job. You need to be fired. We got to tone it down. And for all of you crazy people out there that continue to be upset that the man didn't miss, he's still a father. He's still a grandfather. He is still a human being, and he deserves better than that. And if he doesn't, then neither do you. You deserve people wishing your death if you think that's okay. I personally don't wish death on anybody. I wouldn't do it on Joe Biden. I wouldn't do it on my worst enemy. And those of you that can, you don't know that man. You've never taken 1 second to say hello to the man. You've never shaken his hand. You've never sat down and had a conversation with him. You're doing that based on what somebody else has told you about somebody. And I don't understand how you can have that much hatred with somebody that you don't even know. You've never even met. You need to get past that. And I hope you have a better life. I hope that somewhere in your life you find happiness and excitement and energy and enthusiasm and something instead of hatred and sickness and anger. I don't want to live my life like that. So let's all get back to being fair, fun, happy, excited, and living the good life, because the other way sucks, and life's too short. Life's way too short, or too long if you got to be miserable all the time. All right, that's the end. Let me know what you think. You guys always do. A lot of you trash me constantly, but hey, I feel the way I feel. I'm not changing it now. I'm 60 years old. Have a great day. Come on back next time. This is Bo Knows, or Doesn't.